Hello, and welcome to our latest Money Show Money Masters podcast segment. I'm Mike Larson, editor-in-chief at Money Show, and today I'm speaking with Dan Ives, managing director and senior equity analyst at Wedbush Securities. Welcome to the podcast, Dan.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Dan, you're a first-time guest here, so why don't you just tell the audience a little bit about your background briefly and what it is that you specialize for anyone who's not familiar.
Yeah, look, I've covered tech stocks since the late 90s. And I think what we're kind of known for is really trying to maybe find the trends before they happen. I think that, it's been part of our success covering software, Apple, Tesla, among others. And look, in my opinion, AI is probably the biggest transformational tech trend we've seen in 30 years. And I think we're heading into what I believe is a new tech bull market.
Let's start by talking about the current market environment. Now, you had a great call earlier this fall telling investors not to worry too much about the correction and to stay or get long tech names. We've seen a big recovery since then, so I'm just kind of curious, has that changed your outlook at all, and why or why not?
More bullish. I view it as a table pounder period. Look, a lot of the bears, they peeked their head out of the caves, when they were hibernating for a little here. But I believe tech stocks are going to be up another 20% in 2024, given where we see what's happened with software, cybersecurity, I think consumer digital ad trends. And this is a get out the popcorn moment before the AI trend. I think $1 trillion of spend hits the shores of tech.
Now, our Las Vegas conference is still roughly 3 months away, so I know topics can sometimes be written in pencil instead of ink. But you're slated to talk about how AI is, quote, the most transformative technology trend since the start of the internet in 1995. Why do you say that?
The 1995 moment, because you look what's happened from a use case perspective, it's changing not just software, not just chips, but what we're seeing with Nvidia and Microsoft, tip of the iceberg, to what we're seeing across broader tech. Now, some will say, okay, we've been through other hype trends. Is this another one? I couldn't disagree more. I think this is really unlike any tech trend that we've seen, at least since 1995 start of the internet.
How about what the AI boom means for investors? I mean, if they get involved with stocks like Microsoft and Nvidia here, do you think they're doing so in the first inning of this move, the fourth inning, or something else?
I still think it's first inning. I think also it's key to finding the second, third, fourth derivatives. No, the first derivatives are discovered, Nvidia and Microsoft, which I still think go much higher. But then you look at second, third, fourth derivatives in software and chips. Look at names like MongoDB, Palantir, Snowflake, I think AMD on the chip side. This is just the start. And it's why we believe it fuels the next tech bull market, which has already begun.
So what kind of spending and what kind of AI trend are we talking about? And when you look at terms of dollars and cents, how large do you think this thing is going to be and how is it going to unfold?
To give some numbers, like it's less than 1% of budgets today. We believe it's 8 to 10% of IT budgets into next year. Revolutionary. And that's why I think you got to separate between hype trend and real. And I think that's really what's playing out here. And I think many that just tend to be glass half empty, they'll be like, it's just another hype theme. I've covered, internet tech software since late 90s. It's unlike anything I've seen going back to the start of the internet.
You talk about use cases and some of the ways AI is going to sort of incorporate itself into many more parts of the world, and not just the tech industry, but industry overall. What are some of those real world use cases?
I think some of the use cases we're seeing across banks, from a financial institution, customers better understanding what buying trends look like, cybersecurity pieces in terms of any sort of malware. Big areas are going to be in healthcare, hospitals, medical devices, life insurance, actuary. We're just the start. Right now we've identified about 80 use cases. 3 months ago, that was 15.
Now, what about some of the other investable themes you've discussed? What's the latest with digital advertising, for example, or even cloud computing?
You look at this earnings season, it just makes you more positive because I think you're seeing a recovery on digital advertising trends. Software has been relatively robust in terms of the enterprise spend. Cybersecurity, I think it's a golden age for cybersecurity, names like Zscaler, or CrowdStrike, Palo Alto. And overall, unless you have a telescope, it's hard to find this recession.
That's a good way of putting it. How about the IPO situation? I mean, we obviously had a boom a couple of years back. We've seen the IPO market cool. Do you think that the renewed interest in the sector and in tech stocks is going to bring more names, encourage more public companies to come out in tech?
Look, it's a higher bar for what ultimately will go public. But we've essentially had an ice age for IPOs more or less the last few years. Fed, despite the jawboning that's going on, we believe they'll clearly cut into 2024. That's a positive for new issues, for IPOs, for activity. And I think the market's long overdue. And I think also we're going to see significant M&A as well, specifically in cybersecurity.
How about the other big story in the tech space lately? This open AI Sam Altman saga. I mean, what does that whole thing say about where we are in AI and the evolution here, and what kind of lessons can investors take away from this?
Look, it was scary that 4 clown show board members could take down a $90 billion company. I think it shows governance needs to be heightened, especially with some of these technologies. And even though Microsoft was the poker winner from that, I think what this is really going to do is take some of these private startup VCs, stronger governance, and especially when you're dealing with AI. I mean, it's a transformational tech trend.
Yeah,
can't be in the hands of 4 individuals that could ultimately shift it. So I think you're going to see more adults coming to the kids' table when it comes to some of these situations.
Now, I have to talk about Tesla briefly, seeing as we're recording this, the Cybertruck, the initial deliveries are about to roll out. You said on Twitter, or X, I guess we're calling it now, that this is, quote, another historical moment for Tesla. Can you explain why and what that means for the stock and for its investors?
I think it's just showing innovation, mind market share. They're miles ahead of the competition. Look, Mad Max design, some people poke holes in it. I mean, reservations is above 2 million. Even if it's half that converts, we're talking about what ultimately over the next few years is going to be another growth driver to the Tesla story. And that's why I think when you look at Musk and Tesla, they continue to play chess while others play checkers.
And as far as the EV transition and some of the cooling we've seen, maybe on the demand front, I mean, does that concern you at all or no?
I look, clearly, you've seen maybe the bloom come off the rose a bit, but I think a lot of it's price driven. Price discovery is happening across China, across the US, across Europe, but we're still at 3-4% of autos that are EVs. Okay, does it go to 50%? Maybe it goes to 20. But in that, we're talking about 2 trillion of spend. There's been a lot of winners there. That's why you look at what's happened with Tesla. You look at what the European players are going after. Look what GM, Ford, Rivian, some of the pure plays. I think we're just starting some global players like VinFast, coming out of Vietnam. And I think there's going to be an arms race that's playing out over the coming years.
Now, one of the things you touched on in a recent CNBC interview I saw was about the holiday shopping season, what we're seeing the early numbers there, why you think it's going to be a strong one for tech and so on. Can you elaborate on that a little bit and maybe who the main beneficiaries are?
Yeah, I think Cupertino, in terms of iPhone 15, that's going to be a strong holiday season, which we believe Apple over the next 3 to 6 months make a new all-time highs. Strong gets stronger. Now, look, many have yelled fire in a crowded theater. Bears are just scratching their heads looking at this rally. I don't think it stops. I think fundamentals drive it higher into year end, into next year, which is why we believe the new tech bull market has begun.
Yeah, for sure. But segue to what you were talking about, kind of, the bearish take. I mean, you hear from certain corners, just Magnificent Seven driving this market and growth's outperforming value by too much and so on. What are your thoughts on that argument?
I think it spreads. Tidal wave of spend for AI is going to spread to small to mid cap software to semis. Maybe in this party, it's only been 7. Next year, I think the rest of tech joins the party.
Any other thoughts about what you might say in February or where you expect markets to go? I think you said something like you're looking for a 20% advance maybe in the coming year.
Yeah, we see tech stocks up 20%. I think some areas like FANG Magnificent Seven, I think could still be up another 30 to 40%, given what we see in this golden age. I think AI is going to drive it. I think Fed cuts. It's going to be a Pillsbury Doughboy soft landing, and that's bullish for tech, which is why, look, I just came back from Montana and I saw a lot of bears starting to go deep into those caves into hibernation mode.
Thank you so much for your insights, Dan, and thank you everyone for watching. If you'd like to hear more from Dan, as well as dozens of other top trading, investing, and economic experts, I do encourage you to check out the Money Show Traders Expo Las Vegas. We're scheduled to run from February 21st to 23rd at the Paris Las Vegas Resort. You can find out more by clicking on the link in the description below. Dan, thank you so much again for your time.
Thanks for having me.